Okay, so we're saying that does it need to absorb, or does it just need to be cooked in it? The expression of the Gemara is bishul ubilua, or is it just bishul v'loy bilua? Here it wasn't absorbed; it was just hanging over it, so it wasn't absorbed. Does the Torah say tivushal by? What does the Gemara mean by? What does the pasuk mean by tivushal? Cook. Does it mean just the concept that it was cooked? It doesn't mean the practical effect of cooking means that it gets absorbed in the keli. So, Amar Rava says, Tashima, come and listen, we have a mission that says, see, it says if it was cooked, and the other option is if you poured hot into it. It wasn't cooked into it, but you poured it. See, the Torah is not makbid on the bishul, the Torah is only makbid on the belua, which probably means the other way as well, which probably means that if it was belua, if it was bishul without the belua, maybe that's the same. Here I have belua without bishul. Probably the same thing is bishul without belua. The Gemara says, no. Belua b'lei bishul like a mibaylan. I know that if it's absorbed, belua means absorbed. Absorbed, swallowed, literally. If it's absorbed without cooking, that wasn't my shaila. I know I have to break it. My shaila was kikami boilan. What was our shaila? This is Rami Bar Chama. Bishul b'lei belua. If it's cooked without absorbing, you still have to break it. So Tashima, come and listen. Rab Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. Nachman says the name of Rabba Baravua, which is probably his father-in-law. Taner shel mikdash shel mateches hayar. The oven in the Beis Hamikdash was made out of metal. Why did they make it out of metal? Typical ovens back then were made out of clay, earthenware. And the reason is because they would roast the chatas. It would made out of clay. You would have to break it. And if there wasn't a problem with cooking without absorbing, so now cheres, then you could make it out of clay, and you just make it that it doesn't touch the side. You just put it in the center. You let it hang over the fire, and it doesn't touch the walls. Right? You just cook it over the heat. So the Gemara says, "Kiven de kashiari menacha is daf yasem betanar v'kabishal bilua of dinan shamatechas." It said, well, that would only help for the things that can go on a spit. But you would put it in a spivet. You would put it over the oven, and you could cook like that. But what are you going to do with the carbon mincha that needs to be baked? You're going to have to let it touch the side, right? You can't cook it like that. And they used to joke about how do they eat soup with chopsticks? You can't, right? So certain things you can't just put on a spit, on a spivet. Okay, so that's why they made it out of mateches.
You can eat soup with chopsticks.
You have to splash and catch it in your mouth.
Chopsticks to
pick up the bowl. Okay. Hu tanura was an oven that they smeared on it a smearing. They used a fat to
smear.
They used the fat to. What would they do to
grease the oven?
Yeah, the grease. But there's a word that they use to. No, to not just the grease. There's a word that they use when they prepare a pan.
Grease the pan. That's the term they use.
I'm not talking about because you grease it when you want to cook in it, but they put a flavor in it when you buy it new, or they have like this thing that they flavor it. That's a word. Anyway, they put this grease on it, and they were going to bake in it bread.
So this is before the baking, even.
Before the baking, they greased it. So Asri Rabba Bar Hila lemechel rifta lo'ilam. Rabba Bar Hila said you're not allowed to use this bread ever, even if you reheat the oven. I'm sorry, not that you can't eat this bread. You can't use this oven to make the bread that's made in this oven is aser. Even if they reheat the oven and they bake in it later, afilu b'milcha. Even if they're not going to eat the bread with milk, they're going to eat it just with plain salt. Yeah, it's still a problem. There's a problem with making fleshik bread, right? Because bread is eaten with everything,
right?
And if you have fleshik bread, you may end up eating it with cream cheese, with dip, with something, and so you can't have fleshik bread.
That's fine. fakir. Nowadays, we don't make bread that's milk.
But bread that's fleshik is for sure a problem. Bread that's milchik, you have to make it. You have to make it kentura. It says only a small amount, and it has to look a little different. One time we wanted to. My mother, when I was a kid, wanted to make a milchik bread. She had a recipe, so got to make it a small amount, and also have to put in make it look a little different. So we got a food coloring to put in it, and we got like a food color, blue food, but it was hard to eat. The food, the color, it makes it like not.
But now they just make it parv. So now they just make it parv.
Yeah,
which is the easiest.
Now, it's not a problem if it's pizza, because you see the cheese on top. We're talking about a bread that doesn't look like. It looks like a regular bread. Looks like a regular bread, and there's milk in it, so that's problematic. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this story. We said that you're not allowed to make this fleshik bread because it's going to be fleshik from the oven. It says meisvein lashon es isa b'chalav. It says that you're not allowed to knead dough with milk. V'imlash kalapas kula surah b'nei har galavera, because you may end up eating the bread with meat, like we said. Ki similarly in tashna sataner ba'alya. You're not allowed to smear the oven with the fat, with this animal fat, with the tail fat. And if you do, it's asur until you reheat the oven. If you reheat the oven, then it's not going to be a problem. Problem is, Rabba Barahila, he told me before that even if you reheat the oven, it's a problem. Here, the Brisa says that if you reheat the oven, it's not a problem. Tifta the Rabba Barahila tifta. Is this a question on Rabba Barahila? The Gemara says yes. Amalei Ravina Laravashi v'chim yachadi taisiv Rabba Barahila. If Rabba Barahila was just slugged up, he was very strict. He said that you're not allowed to use this oven ever. So, but we said that no, you are allowed to. You just have to reheat the oven, because when you reheat the oven, the grease that was in it gets all burnt up and it gets kashered. Amaya Marav. So why did Rav say Kederis bePesach Yishavru, that earthenware pots that were used for chametz, when it comes Pesach, you have to break them? What's the problem? You just heat it up again, like we said about the fleishiks. The fleishik oven, you reheat it and it's kosher. Right. So the same thing for Pesach, you should reheat it. Amalei. So Rav Ashi says back to Ravina, Muki leilahi b'shel matechas. When the Brisa said that you could reheat it, that was talking about when it was metal. Metal you can kasher, earthenware you can't kasher. Right? Simple teretz. Biba Yisema, I can give you another teretz. Betana shel cheres. We're really talking about it was an earthenware oven, and an earthenware oven you can kasher. Why? What's the problem with kashering a earthenware? The problem is that we're afraid that you may not heat it up properly, because if it gets too hot, it can burst. Right. So we're afraid that he didn't do a good job. So we say you can't kasher it. However, if it's an oven that's heated from the inside, that means that it's heated. It's like really heated well, right? Like we have. You put the coals or inside the oven. So then we say Yasekim mi bifnim is going to totally kasher it. Yasekim mi bachutz. However, the pot that Rav said that you have to break, the food goes in the inside. The heat goes on the outside. When the heat is on the outside, so then we have a concern that maybe you're not going to heat it up well enough, right? Where it says, so why don't you just put hot coals inside the earthenware pot and you'll heat it up? Do both. Put it on the outside, put it on the inside. It says, we have a concern. He's not going to do a good job. He's not going to put it in properly. He's afraid it's going to break. And all of this. One time we tried to kasher a grill. Say that the way you kasher a grill is you put the coals on the bottom, the rack, like you go to a park, and they have grills in the park, heavy metal, these. So you put the coals on the bottom, and you put hot coals on the top, and that kashers on both sides, and that's kasher. When we were done, though, like it sunk in. You're supposed to be this thing you could lift up. It wasn't the same. Anyway, So there's a concern that maybe you won't do a good job, and
then they ran.
Yeah. Okay. Hilkach. Therefore, haikuvia. Esekim b'chutzu v'aser. How do they translate a kuvia? It's a type of pot. What, do they have a translation in the?
Kli hasui mirafim shufim. Like rafim is like shingles.
A tile ring.
Tiles, yeah.
Tiles.
Yeah.
So it's heated from the outside. So if that was smeared with the fat, then it would be usher, even if you heat it up again. Because maybe you didn't heat it up properly.
That's how they made
The lafa. They make the lafa on these hot pans. We did that by one of the hurricanes. We had to
French
bake
toast.
the challah. It was on we didn't have electricity, so we had a grill. But how do you make challah on a grill? We made it thin, and it becomes pita.
Yeah.
It puffs up in the middle. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Okay. So, El Kadeire Shel Mikdash, the pots in the base of Mikdash, we said before that if it's absorbed, if it was heated on the inside, well, let's see, El Kadeire Shel Mikdash, Ama Yishavru Nadrin Lekivshainis. Why do you have to break them? Just put them back into the kiln, and that would be fine. Amar Rab Zeira Lefi Shainis and Kivshainis B'Yushalayim. Problem is, theoretically, that would be okay. But we don't make kilns in Yerushalayim because the smoke was not good for the. So what do? We have large mounds of garbage. All of the earthenware pots. They said outside of Shiloh is the excavations. They found a lot of clay pots, mounds and mounds of pots. It says. Ishtamitze hadatani shmaya bekal nevai shivri klicheres nivlam bim kaiman. Is that shmaya bekal nevai? Shmaya taught in kal nevai that broken earthenware pots would get absorbed into the ground. Was that a miracle? It says that this was a place of Avodah Zarah, Rashi says. Ishtamitze means he forgot, right? He forgot that there wasn't a mound of garbage there because it got absorbed. Ella hadam Rav Nachman Ram Ravu Tana Shel Mikdash Shel Matechas Have Navid Decheres Deseka Bifnimhu. Why did they have to make the oven out of metal? You can make the oven out of earthenware, and if you light it in the inside, we said that's like returning it to the kiln. And it totally kashes it. We said anything that's heated from the inside, we don't have a concern you might not heat it properly. It's only if it's heated from the outside, you won't put the coals in the inside. You're afraid it's going to get deformed or burst. So it says, "Kivan dekashtei alechem, belechem apanim, daf yasin betaner, kedushasin betaner, havale klisharis, klisharis decheres leavdina." Since the serving vessels, the vessel, the klisharis that's needed for these loaves of bread, the lechem apanim, or the shtei alechem, which was on Shavuos, needed a service vessel, klisharis. So we only make service vessels out of metal, not out of clay. It wasn't not out of earthenware. Filu Rab Yesi Bar Yehuda lekamar. Then we have Rab Yesi Bar Yehuda. Filu Rab Yesi lekamar Ella the eight aval decheres loy. In Masechta Sukkah, where there was a machlekes about if a klisharis could be made out of wood, he says that was only a question of wood. Over there was a discussion about the chalil, the flute. Was made out of wood. Chalil, there was a flute of wood. Was that considered a clay sharis? They said that's a wood, but we don't make it out of earthenware. Okay, let's leave it over here. We're up to the second line. Rav Yitzchak Bar Yehuda. All right. Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Hello, then, call back.